They were already falling, from the skies above quiet towns, onto farms, into fields, sometimes burning, sometimes silent, but always unexpected. These were not stars, not meteors, not airplanes. They were something else, and every time someone saw, a child, a preacher, a cowboy, a pilot, they saw what fell, they remembered. But the world around them chose to forget. This is not science fiction. These are real accounts from before Roswell, before cover-ups had names, when the Earth itself still told the truth. If you knew where to listen. These are the forgotten crashes of alien crafts, and the stories that refused to stay buried. The fog was thick that morning in Malini, Italy, so thick it muffled footsteps, so heavy it made the sky feel close. The land was silent, but something up there had begun to move. Then, without warning, light. A sudden white flash pierced the clouds. Not lightning, not natural, there was no thunder, only stillness. A heavy, eerie pause that made the birds stop singing. In the wheat fields, a shepherd froze, his sheep froze with him, and then the ground shivered, as if something enormous had settled onto it. At the center of the field, an object had fallen, not like a crash, no broken parts, no crater, it had simply arrived. A silver craft shaped like an egg, 15 meters long, seamless. Smooth, its surface shimmered like oil underwater. There were no windows, no visible doors, just strange markings etched around its midsection, symbols no one could read. Soon the military arrived, but not in uniform. These were men in black coats and long boots. No flags, no names, only quiet orders and a cold efficiency. They built a black canvas tent around the object and sealed it from view. Inside, some say, were 3 beings, thin, fragile, pale as moonlight, skin translucent like the surface of a soap bubble. Their heads were too large, their limbs too long, their movements slow as if Earth's gravity hurt them. One was still alive, barely. The Italians didn't know what to do. But one man had an idea. Guglielmo Marconi, the father of wireless radio, was brought in. He believed the object communicated using frequencies, not to Earth, but to something beyond it. The entity, some claimed, had tried to speak, not with words, but with soundless pulses that rattled glass and made radios hum. 2 weeks later, it all disappeared. The craft, the bodies, the tent, gone, no trucks were seen. No lights in the sky, just rumors. Some say it was taken to a base in the Alps. Others believe the Vatican sealed it beneath Rome, hidden away, locked beneath both secrecy and faith. August 16, 1945. The desert in New Mexico was still scorched from the Trinity blast. The sand was brittle, the air heavy with invisible echoes of atomic fire. Jose Padilla, 9 years old, and Rio Baca, 7, were searching for a lost cow. But what they found that day was not a cow. It was something that should not have existed. A deep sound shook the desert, low and rumbling like thunder beneath the sand. Dust rose in a black column from the horizon. The boys rode closer on horseback. What they saw made them stop cold. A long, jagged trench ripped through the desert floor, as if a plow the size of a truck had carved a scar into the land. At the end of the trench was a metallic disc, half buried, still steaming. It wasn't a plane, it had no wings. One edge had been torn open like paper, revealing a dark hollow inside. The boys dismounted. The air smelled of burnt sage and hot metal. Then came movement. Inside the broken craft, figures stirred. Small, no taller than children. But they were not children. Their skin was bluish-gray, semi-transparent. Their heads were too large, their arms too thin. Their eyes, enormous, black, and unblinking, reflected the desert sun without glare. They made no sound. They didn't walk. They glided. Jose stepped back. Rio whispered, "They're scared too." And then they ran. By nightfall, the military had come. Black trucks, covered headlights, silent men. The site was sealed. Within hours, the wreckage was gone. But not everything was taken. The boys returned days later and found a piece of the craft, a panel the size of a hand. Light, curved, cool to the touch. Jose bent it, twisted it. It snapped back instantly. No creases, no marks. It was a material that remembered its shape, a metal that could not forget. They hid it beneath the floorboards for decades. In 2015, it was tested. The lab said, "It's just aluminum." But aluminum doesn't hum when you touch it. And it doesn't make your dreams go strange. Then came another witness. Lieutenant Colonel William Brody had been flying a training mission that same day. He was redirected to investigate a dead signal tower near Alamogordo. He landed. He saw the trench, he saw the disc. He saw the boys, but he never filed a report, not because he was silenced, but because he knew no one would believe him, and maybe he didn't believe it himself. He dressed, grabbed his Bible, drove into the night. When he arrived, there were no broken wagons, no overturned cars. There was a disc, cracked open like an egg, still smoking, still glowing. 3 bodies lay inside, 2 were already gone. Their skin was pale blue, their limbs thin. Their eyes wide, black, endless. The 3rd was still alive, barely breathing. Its chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a whisper. Huffman hesitated, then he knelt. He didn't know what this creature was, but he knew life when he saw it. And he prayed not for answers, but for peace. Witnesses say he was calm, silent. The soldiers watched but said nothing. Rumors spread of a single picture showing Huffman beside the alien dead. That photo was never found. The story was never published. But Charlotte Mann, his granddaughter, would one day tell it. And even that wasn't the first alien funeral. In Aurora, Texas, April 17, 1897, a flying craft had crashed into a windmill. It exploded, sending debris into Judge Proctor's garden. Among the wreckage, a small body, not a man, not a child, something else. The locals gave it a grave, a quiet service. They carved a stone, small, round, with a symbol of a ship. Over time, the stone disappeared. The exact plot was lost, but the story remained. Because when you bury something not of this earth, you don't forget. You whisper it to your children, and they whisper it to theirs. June 6, 1884. The plains of Nebraska were still. The wind rolled like a sigh across golden grasses. Then the sky broke. A bright object streaked across the morning light, trailing sparks. It roared overhead, then vanished behind the hills. A thundering boom followed. Cattle scattered. Men rode toward the smoke. What they found stunned them. A metallic cylinder, massive, 50 feet long, lay half-sunken in the earth. It had no doors. No windows, but along its side, strange, rotating rings spun slowly, humming with a vibration no one could hear. The metal glowed, not hot, but radiant. One man stepped too close. He collapsed. His skin blistered. They left the site marked, intending to return with tools, but overnight it rained. And by morning, the craft was gone. In its place, puddles of blue-white jelly, thick, cool, unnatural, smelling faintly of sulfur and something electric. No sign of debris, no sign of tracks, only jelly and wind and confusion. The story made a local paper. Some dismissed it as fiction. But years later, green glassy stones were found nearby, veined with white, just like the lemon jelly described in 1884. No one knows what they were. No one studied them seriously. Because sometimes, when the unknown falls to earth, the earth takes it back. All sound the same. Crafts that glowed without flame. Metal that bent then healed. Symbols no one could read. And beings small, silent, impossibly still, with eyes too wide and memories too old. Each story ends the same way. The military comes, the craft vanishes. The truth is buried, but not completely, because some people remembered. They told their children, and their children told us, And now you know too, so ask yourself, what if even one of these stories is true? What if they came before we were ready? And what if they're still coming, still watching, still waiting for us to notice what's always been beneath our feet and above our skies?